Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. Today is week 1 of the Stay Spooky Sew Along from Fort Worth Fabric Studios. So go ahead on over and print your patterns. And this week you're going to have several things. You're going to have your cutting guide. And you'll get a page that is the fabric sorting by week. And then this time around they provided us with cutting diagrams for several of the fabrics. You'll have this and this, so make sure you grab all of those. And you're going to have the first month's or the first week's blocks, and that is the black house block. So make sure you print all of these pages. So you should have 5 pages, and I'll show you what I cut, and then we'll get started sewing the house blocks. So like I said before, make sure you print out your cutting instructions. And they also include this fabric by week, so you'll be able to divide all these fabrics into weeks. And then you'll also have your cutting diagram for your background fabric and your cutting diagrams for a couple of the other fabrics as well, because there are some directional fabrics this week. So watch that guide, it'll help you cut your directionals the correct way, which I definitely appreciate because like I've said before on my channel, I like directional fabrics, but I don't like them. It's a catch-22 because they need to be going the right way for my brain. And if they're not, it frustrates me. So I'm really glad that they included this. And then you're also going to want to make sure you grab your block. This week we're making a black house block. So I'm going to set these things aside for now, and let's go through the cuts really quick. Okay, so the first thing you're going to want to cut is your background fabric. It looks like it says dots off-white or stars white. So it looks like we may have gotten different backgrounds, but I got the dots. And so the first cuts you're going to make 16 5.5 inch squares and 6 5-inch squares. And that's from the first 5.5 inch strips that you're going to cut. So those are going to come from the 5.5 inch strips. The next thing you're going to make is you're going to make more 5-inch, let me grab them over here, a few more 5-inch from the next 2 5-inch by width of fabric strips. You're going to make 4 more 5.5 inch squares. I'm actually just going to add that to the 5-inch square pile. And then you're going to have 4 10-inch by 2-inch rectangles. And then you're going to have 4 5 by 8-inch rectangles. There's a lot of halves and wholes in this, so pay really close attention. I had to double check myself quite a few times when I was cutting, just to make sure I was cutting the, nothing too small, because like I said, there's a bunch of 5.5 and then 5, and then there's other measurements that are similar like that too. So okay, so the next one is you're going to cut 2 2.5 width of fabric strips, and from that you're going to get 8 7.5 by 2.5 inch rectangles. And then the next thing we're going to cut is we're going to cut 1 2-inch by width of fabric strip. And from that, you're going to get 4 10-inch by 2-inch rectangles. So no halves, 10-inch by 2-inch. And then the next cut you're going to make is 1 5-inch by width of fabric strip. And you're going to cut 3 12.5 by 5-inch rectangles. And the next cut you're going to make after that will be 1 5.5 inch by width of fabric strip. And you're going to subcut 1 12.5 by 5-inch rectangle. So the same as the last 3 you made, so those go together. And then also from that strip, you're going to have 8 5.5 inch by 3-inch rectangles. Okay, the next cut you're going to make is you're going to make 4 3-inch by width of fabric strips. And from that, you're going to get 32 3-inch squares and 8 3-inch by 5-inch rectangles. So we'll add that to the pile. And then it gets easier after that. Then you're going to just cut 5 1.5 inch width of fabric strips. You're not going to do anything to these. So I imagine that's probably going to be borders or something like that, maybe sashing strips. I don't know yet. And then the same thing with the last cut is 7 2.5 inch width of fabric strips. So there's all of our background fabrics. These I'm going to set in a separate pile because I think those are probably not until the very last week. They're probably some kind of border or sashing strips. All right, the next thing we're going to cut is fabric B, which is the jack-o'-lanterns. And this is one that has the diagram because it is directional fabric. And the first cut you're going to make is 4 12.5 by 5.5 inch rectangles. Also, like I said, make sure you are following the diagram. So that's these guys here with the little smiley faces. And then you're going to cut 4 6.5 by 3.5 inch rectangles. So see, these are going a different direction, so make sure you pay attention to that diagram. And then 4 3-inch squares and 8 3-inch by 2-inch rectangles. So again, those are directional, and they're saying to make sure that the 3 inch is the longer side with the faces up. So definitely check your diagram for that one. The next is the dots persimmon, which is this orangey color right here. And you're going to cut 7 2.5 inch by width of fabric strips for binding. So that's what this is. So I'm going to set this guy aside because we're not going to need that to build blocks. And then we're going to cut 1 6 inch by width of fabric strip, and you're going to cut out of that 8 6-inch by 5-inch rectangles. And then you're going to cut 5 1.5 by width of fabric strips, and you're going to be cutting 16 1.5 by 5.5 inch rectangles, which are these guys here, and 16 1.5 by 6-inch rectangles. Okay, so next is the charcoal words, which is this guy here, and you are going to get 8 5-inch squares and 16 2.5-inch squares. And then the next fabric again is a directional fabric, so check the diagram, and from that you're going to get the ghosts. You're going to get 8 5 by 2, and you're going to get 8 6 by 2 inch. And as you can see, these guys are going different directions, so make sure that you're checking that diagram to cut them the right way. Oh, the other thing I wanted to mention is somebody mentioned this to me, but this fabric is glow in the dark. I didn't know that, but I'm thinking it's probably these little ghosts. Just FYI, check your ghosts. Okay, the next fabric is the plaid orange, and this one you're going to cut, let me grab it here. You're going to cut 4 4.5 by 6-inch rectangles, and then you're going to cut 2 5-inch squares, and then you're going to do the plaid, the off-white plaid, and you're going to get 8 5 by 2-inch rectangles and 8, that's the 5, and 8 6 by 2-inch rectangles. So that's those. Fabric H is the Witch Icons Toss. So these black ones here, and I bet these ones are probably glow in the dark too. I'll have to check that. And that one you're going to get 8 2.5 by 6.5 inch rectangles, which is that right there, and 4 2-inch by 8.5 inch strips, which is that right there. Okay, the next fabric is the dots charcoal. So these dots here in the darker color. And for this one, you're going to have 4 5.5 inch by 12.5 inch rectangles, 16 2 by 2 inch squares. One more fabric and then we're done. This one did take me a little bit of time to cut. Okay, so the first thing on this one you're going to do, and this is a directional fabric as well, these words, these orange words here. So the first thing you're going to do is cut 1 6.5 inch by width of fabric strip, and then you're going to cut 4 6.5 by 5.5 inch rectangles and 4 6.5 by 4.5 inch rectangles. And as you can see, the words need to be the long side, the 6.5 inch side is the length of the fabric so that the words are pointed up the right way. Anyway, follow the diagram. And 4 6.5 by 4.5 inch rectangles. So there we go. And then I missed this one, so I'm gonna have to go back. Oops, no, I cut that one, sorry. I don't know what I'm saying anymore. Okay, we have the, I'm gonna confuse you guys. I'm sorry about that. 6.5 by 5.5, 6.5 by 4.5, and then the remaining was 4 1.5 by 12.5, and those are, the width is following the words. So again, make sure you check your diagram. That I'm really happy that they gave that to us because we do have a lot of directional fabrics here, and it would drive my brain crazy if we didn't have that diagram and I had to figure all this out, especially because it's a mystery and we don't know what the blocks are going to look like. All right, I'm going to put all this away and grab the fabrics that we need for week 1 for the little black houses. So this here, and again, we have this sheet, oops, fabric sorting by week. So you can see here if you want to sort all your fabrics, like if you need 3 of these and 2 of these, I'm just making up numbers right now, but for each week, that way it makes it easier when we get to it. You'll have everything kind of ready to go. So I'm going to put all this stuff away, grab the fabrics I need for this, and then we'll sew this together. I want to start by showing you the leftover fabric, which I usually do during the cutting part, and I totally forgot. So as you can see, there's a good amount of leftover fabric. So in case you make a mistake, you definitely have some extra on most of the fabrics. So I wanted to show you that, but I did want to show you that on a couple of the fabrics, these word ones, this is all I had left of the black, and this was all I had left of the orange. So make sure on these 2 fabrics, the words, that you cut really, really carefully, because this is definitely not enough if you make a mistake to cut anymore, because this one's got selvage on it. So a good 1/2 inch of this piece is already waste. So make sure you save all these in case you have a cutting mistake, but on the words in particular, be very careful because there's only a little bit left. Now the rest of these is quite a bit, enough that you could make probably something to go with this quilt, maybe a pillow or maybe even another small wall hanging or something. There's quite a bit of fabric left. So I'm going to set this aside. I got all the fabrics out for the first week of sewing. So like I said before, we're going to be making the black house block. Here's the instructions. And so we're going to start with the roof unit right here. So we're going to use this great big guy right here. And this is a 12.5 inch by 5.5 inch piece. And we're going to use these background squares that are 5.5 inch background squares. So you're going to need for all the houses because we're making 4. Now my paper right here says make 1. That's incorrect. We're actually making 4, but as you go along it says make 4, make 4. So just don't pay attention to that. It is definitely 4 houses. So you're going to have 4 of these. You're going to have 8 of these guys to make all the roof units. So let's make the roof unit first. So the first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to flip the background squares over and draw a line corner to corner, which I already did on this one. So I'm going to do that again on this one. So lay your ruler on the diagonal going across the square and draw a line corner to corner. Now you can use mechanical pencil. I like these friction pens. We're going to cut apart, or we're going to sew right on that line and cut a 1/4 inch away. So if you're not comfortable using a friction pen, use whatever you like. Like I said, mechanical pencil, a chalk marker. I just really like friction pens. I know that there's some controversy as to whether the lines come back. I've never had lines come back except using a red friction pen, so I don't use red anymore. But other than that, I've never had any trouble. So, all right, we're going to go ahead and we're going to sew one of these on each side. Now pay attention to the directionality of your fabric. You want to sew up towards the top. Same thing, because we're going to flip these back like this, and you want the pumpkins' faces looking at you with the tops of these here. So you want the pumpkins where the biggest side down here, the pumpkins are going up. So unless you don't care about directionality, I have a little bit of OCD, so I need my stuff going the right direction. So I'm going to go ahead and sew this. Again, we're sewing right on the line. This isn't like half square triangles where we're sew on both sides of the line. Sewing right on this line here. And this is different from regular flying geese as well. These aren't going to meet in the middle. So, and I'll show you that in a second. So I'm going to go ahead and sew both of them on before I trim and press this, just to make the process go a little bit faster. You can do it one at a time if you want there at home. Also, I already sewed a few of these ahead of time just to make sure I knew what I was doing before I told you guys. But I would chain piece these. I would do all one side on all 4 pieces first, and then all the other side. And then you can also trim and press them all at the same time to save yourself a little bit of time rather than doing one at a time. But a fairly easy block this week. Should go together for you fairly quickly and easily. Okay, so now I've sewn both of those. I'm going to put my ruler down on the line that I sewed at the 1/4 inch mark. And I'm going to cut on that side of the line I sewed. So you should have something like, sort of looking like a flying geese, but we're not overlapping in the middle there like we traditionally do for our flying geese. Okay. And I'm going to get my Acorn. This is the Acorn Easy Press pen. I get asked this in every video, so I'll just go ahead and mention it now. It contains a liquid starch alternative concentrate that you apply right on the seams that you sewed, or right on the threads. It just helps press your blocks really, really flat. You'll see me using this in pretty much all of my videos. I just like the way my blocks come out when I use it. So, but you definitely don't have to use any kind of starch if you're not a starcher or best presser or anything like that. It's all personal, what you like. I know starchers have like a very strong opinion about starching. Best pressers do. People that just use steam. People that don't use anything. Definitely, there's no quilt police here on my channel. You do what you like. Alright, so that is the roof section, and you're going to make 4 of these. But for now, this guy is done, so we're going to leave him over here. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to grab our house pieces. So this is going to be sort of like, I guess, what would be like the front door. And then to build this house, we're going to sew the smaller black strips on either side. After those are put on, we're going to put this top strip on here. And I know it looks kind of funky right now, but it won't be, I promise. And then after all those pieces together, we're going to sew these background strips on either side of this house. So let's start with the black on the left and right. And again, just like these, they're not going to touch, so I'm going to go ahead and sew both at the same time before I take and press it, just to save some time. Pressing one at a time can definitely slow you down. So, and I know it's not a race, but I know a lot of you out there are still working a full-time job, and it could be really difficult for you to find time to sew, because quilting is now my full-time job, but before it was, I did have a lot of struggles finding time to sew. So just try to give you little tips along the way to be able to get things done. Okay, so I've got both of those guys attached. I'm going to press them out. I don't believe, yeah, it just says press as preferred. It doesn't give like pressing instructions, so they're seeming to want to go out towards the black fabric. I kind of usually, if there's no pressing instructions, let the fabric tell me which way it wants to go. And I know that sounds kind of strange because it's an inanimate object, but they kind of flop in a certain direction, and they seem to be flopping out towards the black. So that's what we're gonna do. Okay, there's part of the house. Now we're gonna add this guy to the top, and I think this might be one of the glow-in-the-dark fabrics. There was a couple in this fabric line. I don't know. After we're done here, I'm gonna have to turn off the light and see. Okay, so that's the top. I'm just going to give that guy a press. I really love this fabric. This plaid is gorgeous. I'm not really into plaids that much, but for some reason I'm loving this like fall plaid. I kind of want some more of it. Okay. All right, so now that we've got all three of those pieces on, we're going to add these guys to the side. So again, I'm going to put both sides on and then we'll press. Okay, those are on, good to go there. We're going to press these. Again, it's not listed in the instructions which way to press, so you just choose which way you want to. I know some of you like to press open. You could easily press these seams open. And usually I press towards the dark fabric, not away. But like again, I said, this fabric seems to be telling me to go that way, and I can't see any of the black through it, so I'm good with that. Letting it kind of go where it wants to. Okay, so there is the bottom section of our house. We've got the roof right here, and all we need to do now to finish this block is to attach that together. See how quick and easy that was? 10 minutes or so. So you should be able to, if you chain piece all of these, you should be able to get all these done within an hour. Probably a lot less for some of you. Maybe for more of the beginners, it'll take about an hour, but pretty simple block this week, which is a nice way to start a project always, with an easier thing, especially with all the cutting. The cutting took me a while. That took me more than 10 minutes. Okay. We're just going to give this guy a press, and I'm going to press this one up towards the roof unit because there's less seams on this piece, and this one has 1, 2, 3, 4 seams, so it'll be less bulky if I press it up towards this. So I'm going to press it towards the roof. All right, that's it. So about 12 minutes for this block. So there you go. There's our house block. So let me move the camera. We'll get reset here and I'll show you all of my house blocks done. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. Those house blocks were a lot of fun. Here's one a little bit closer up, and you can see the other 3 on my wall behind me. So there's 4 of those all together. What a fun way to start this sew along. I'm so excited. So thank you again to all of you for coming over here and visiting with me, and thank you to Fort Worth Fabric Studio for this cute, fun sew along. I'm excited to see what's next week, what we're going to sew next week. And again, that will be Monday. Don't forget the patterns release every Monday morning, and an hour later the video goes up right here on YouTube. It is the patterns release 9 Eastern, 8 Central. I think I'm getting the time zones correct. I'm not good with time zones. And then the videos come out at 10 a.m. Eastern, 9 Central, so an hour later. If you need the patterns, the link is down below in the description box of this video. If you would still like a kit, head on over to their shop. I've also got the link for the kits down there. And don't forget to join the Facebook group. They have a private Facebook group, so you don't have to worry about privacy or anything like that. But we'd love to see your progress, your blocks as you're sewing along with us. Snap a picture, put it in the Facebook group. If you do decide to join the Facebook group and you're not already in the Facebook group, you'll have to answer a few questions. And once you answer those questions, you'll be approved to come in. But we'd love to see you there. I know I love seeing your progress, and I know all the people at Forward Fabric Studio do as well. It's really fun for me to see who's sewing along, especially if you're sewing with your own fabric. I love to see your fabric choices, so post some pictures over there for us. All right, well, that's all I've got for today. Happy Monday, and I will see you next Monday for week 2 of the Forward Fabric Studio Sew Along. Stay spooky.